looking for trouble? You came to the right place. If you're looking for trouble, just look right in
Robert,
my face.
what is happening? Is
You've
this
been
what you were
shaking,
just,
AC.
were you just like, it's like you were just doing this and
Yeah,
like,
that's what I
hi.
do. Every so often, I just pop up my collar and I'm like, it's Elvis time, baby.
Okay. All right. Was that how you get, well, you probably have done that on TikTok.
Yep, I have actually that particular song too.
Okay. Awesome. We'll have to go. You really need to get on Smule with Vern, our friend Vern, from Oxford.
So I hear, although I do not know that I can afford any more vices to be added to my addiction list.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Good point. Just stick with TikTok. All right. Well, thought we would rant about one of the recent franchisor roundtables. I just feel like it was very energetic and there was a lot of good meaty sort of topics, subtopics coming out of the topic of current economic conditions. And it's funny because every week, I'm trying to think like, what do people want to talk about? Like coming up with topics is kind of like scary sometimes because like, what if I come up with a bad topic or like, do they want to circle back to some of the topics? But sometimes it's good to just talk about current stuff. And that I find those discussions can be quite good. And so when I even like, it's funny when you think back a couple of years and like we've had things to talk about with the economy for now, at least like 2.5 years with the pandemic, right? So initially it was like, how do you handle helping your franchisees find financing? And then it was employee shortages. And then, anyway, it's been an ongoing thing, right? So a lot of me thinks, well, what's the difference? But then inflation is a big thing and people are struggling with costs and things, which we didn't even really get to. So it was interesting because I had a list of, my usual questions, like I think maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 questions. And we really just got stuck on the first one because it's a common hot topic of like what's happening with lead generation, and kind of, yeah, what's happening with lead gen as a result of the current economic conditions of, high interest rates and people's fears about that and all that's going on. So I thought we could talk about a few of the key takeaways.
Okay.
You want to start with something that stood out for you?
Well, I mean, for the large part of the listen, my background's in economics. This is what my
Right.
degree
That's
is
why I was
in.
glad you were there.
Yeah. So like the whole conversation, I was thinking like, all right, are we going to be talking about expansive monetary policy, fiscal policy, adjusting supply chain? Like this is what I'm thinking. Okay.
You were all excited. Like you showed up with a pocket protector and your nerd glasses and you're like, let's
Yeah, with
go.
the tape right on the bridge.
Yeah.
um, but you
Hope
know
you
what?
weren't too let down.
No, I'm never let down.
Okay.
So, somebody mentioned in the chat, and this is like a common phrase that everyone always says, when people are greedy, you should be fearful. When people are fearful, you should be greedy, right? And then JT gave a really awesome example of learning to surf in California, right? That the instructor teaches you how to get on the surfboard when the water is calm so that you can ride the crest, right? They don't teach you how to get on the crest. And ultimately, you don't really know when that crest is because if you got into the real estate market at the peak of right before the 2007, 2008 bubble, you'd be thinking, this is awesome. I got in. And then boom, the next day, the wave has collapsed. So looking for times when things are tough, when everybody else is fearful, that's the important time to get in and start building your business. And, sure, like your mindset is going to be totally screwed up hearing everything that's going on the political landscape and economic stuff and inflationary policies and things like that. And everyone's got their own opinion. But if you're able to block that out and just focus on your business, running under the presumption that you actually do have a good business with great unit level economics or just business economics and a durable economic moat, then you can
Like Control V, like your
yes,
business.
exactly, like Control B. Yeah. Um, then you can weather the storm, and it's important to do that. I always think of the company like Procter and Gamble, like these companies make toothpaste and toilet paper, something that people need regardless what the economic situation is like. So they've built that durable economic moat by the type of product that they create. So I mean, that was what was going through my head.
Well, that's a lot. Okay. Yeah. So it started with like the surfing in California. I like that. And that kind of relates a little bit maybe maybe not, maybe I'm just making that up, to one of my key takeaways, that Paul Pickett was talking about, which he talked about. I remember like when the pandemic first hit, he was one of the early adopters, the OGs at the AC roundtables, which we didn't even call that at the time. And that was that making sure that you have relationships with your lenders, like for your franchisees. Like it's certainly great to use like a service that works with the franchisee directly, but to also have direct relationships with the lenders. And he said, like, he takes them for coffee, he sends them flowers, like he's constantly nurturing that relationship so that if he needs to tap into that, at those tough times, that he can.
Yeah, that was actually a really awesome key takeaway, because for the most part, people think that lenders are just kind of like, it is what it is. I plug the numbers into the calculator, and if it works, it works. You know what I mean? So there's no need to build a relationship with a lender. I'll just send the franchisee there. I need to focus on building my relationship with brokers and consultants. But you could find a lead through any means that needs financing, and sending them to a lender that is supportive because they like you is a good thing.
Yeah, especially during times when interest rates are high and maybe you can work a deal or something. Another thing that I thought was interesting is, everyone wants to know what's happening with lead flow. And my key takeaway was that it sounds like for a lot of people that spoke up, it's down, but the leads are a little more qualified. They're a little more serious, the ones that are coming in, but not everybody said that. So I think my key takeaway about that is that I think franchisors often are comparing apples to oranges when they're talking lead flow, because, we have so many different types of businesses sitting at that round table, everything from like low investment mobile service businesses or home-based businesses to, full on brick and mortar $2 million investment businesses. And I think there's so many factors, and then seasonality and all these things that play in. But I think what happens though is that we, as humans, our nature is that we don't want to be like the one person that's having we want to know if we're the one person having the problem, then we know we have a true problem. But to be able to hear that a couple other people are dealing with the same issue, I think, it's interesting, because I feel like we could have just started with the roundtable with that and then predicted that we would, there's going to be some randomness to what's happening with lead flow, but don't bank on any of it anyway, because you're fine. But you do want to look at what you're doing. And if you've changed something and it's not working now, obviously, but if you haven't changed anything, you always still need to refine, I guess. But I think, do you know what I mean? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I was actually just thinking, if I did a trade show in Boston in the fall and it was a terrible trade show, I can't come to the conclusion that organizer, that
sucked.
trade show organizer sucked, or maybe Boston sucked, or what. Like, there's other things. What if I did Boston in the spring and all of a sudden came home with so many leads, right? So when you're talking about the effects of lead flow on as a result of current economic conditions, there's so many things that factor into it. Like you said, there may be less leads, but there are higher qualified leads. So it was good food for thought to kind of crunch through that sort of stuff, but it doesn't bring any conclusive arguments.
Yeah. And I think, we heard once again, and we're hearing it with our clients and things, that candidates they're using the current economic conditions as a reason not to move forward. But my question was, well, isn't that what they were doing? Like, they'll always find, I think, whether it's the pandemic, like whether it was, the early stages of the pandemic, or, the 2008, or even if there was nothing going on really wonky in the economy, it's, well, I'm not ready. Like, there's always that leap of faith. So I think, digging in and surfacing that was, I think, one of the things we talked about, surfacing those concerns as early as possible and seeing if you can address them and whether you can help them come around. Because if those are going to come out at the end of the process and you're not going to be able to get them to come around, then you wasted a whole lot of time. So what did you think of that?
Yeah, knowing whether something is actually an excuse or if it's just a hurdle is important. I can't remember who said that on the roundtable, but it definitely wasn't me.
It was like excuse or an actual concern.
Yeah, like if a lead says, sorry, I can't open up your business because I don't have any money. Well, do you just write them off, or do you say, are you open to a loan? And then they might say, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't think of that. It's a hurdle that you have to overcome as a franchisor or friend dev person.
Yeah, but if they say to you, I'm really not ready and I'm more comfortable in a job and then you work through that. And that was another key takeaway, was that if a lead comes to you through somebody that's in a career transition platform, to be careful, because if they're kind of being talked into the idea of looking at a business, they might not actually have the kind of the stomach for it. They might not, it can go kind of sideways.
Yeah,
No, not always. Just to be clear, like that can for sure work, but just to be a little more cautious, a little more vetting.
absolutely.
All
Okay,
right. Well, I think we exhausted enough key takeaways for now in this short period of time.
let's wrap it up.
Okay.
3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
1.
Go
Go
be
be
awesome.